Hello and welcome to this scene. I'm Osian Andrew, a BFI Film Academy Young Programmer. Now, with award shows rife and our very own BFI Future Film Festival only around the corner, I'm continuing with our film festival season of scenes, looking at films that have been around the festival circuit. Today, I'll be talking to Rebs Fisher-Jackson about her micro short, Best Student. This film fits perfectly in our season, having been to festivals all around the world, having won the Audience Award at the Paris Short Film Festival in 2022 even. The film follows the life of a mug and its owner, sharing moments of joy and sadness together. Rebs has written and directed several films, including Just Friends, which screened on BBC Wales in 2023, so I'm very excited to be chatting to her about her film and her career. Now, there's plenty to talk about, so let me introduce you to our guest. Welcome, Rebs.
Everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, then. Well, like I said, there's so much to talk about. Let's get right into it. First off, Best Student. You made this film a couple of years ago now, but can you tell me a little bit about it and how did the idea come about?
So I graduated as part of the class of 2020, and I moved from like the stingy student house in Cardiff into like my first apartment with my wife. And this apartment was tiny, like it was barely above a studio, really. And I was trying to like work out how to get all of my stuff in after years of being away from home. I'm a mug collector. I have a lot of mugs every time I'm at like a major event or I go somewhere like I have to get a mug. And we were doing spring clean as most people were during the pandemic trying to entertain ourselves. The amount of mugs that both of us broke were shocking. There were just so many mugs just broken. The idea really came from I broke a mug, my wife broke a mug, and we were both really upset about the mug that was broken. And I just kind of sat there and wondered why. Like, why do I care so much about a mug? Like, there's so much else going on in the world right now. Why do I care about a mug? So it kind of took on this idea of about what if the mug is a metaphor for other things? What if the mug had a life of its own? What's the journey of a mug? And the story just kind of like grew from there and kind of in a response to how important the arts are and pursuing what you really want to do during the pandemic as well.
Absolutely. What an awesome answer. Thank you so much, Rebs. Yeah, I've smashed a few mugs in my time. Yeah, I'm like that as well, especially if they're of sentimental value, right? You just like, it makes you kind of sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
All right, then. Best Student is reflective of a person's life from childhood right through until retirement. Spoiler alert. I get an almost biographical stance from your writing sometimes. Could you speak of your script development process? And what did you want the narrative to achieve?
So, Best Student was only the second like professional formatted script I'd ever done. And I was lucky enough to get a spot with one of the BFI Film Academy labs with script doctor Teresa Bowden, I think in 2021, which is really cool. I went along to that and I was very lucky to have a one-to-one with her after. So we were chatting about this. And it's something I'm very interested in as a writer and as a director, just like the trajectory of someone's life, coming of age stories. But also, I love writing stories for older characters as well. Like, there's not enough roles for, especially women above middle age at all in film. So I kind of wanted to encompass like a coming of age story that spans someone's whole life. It's very hard to try and sit down and write a three-act structure. Sometimes I think that can be very restricted to people. So in terms of the narrative, I just kind of picked out, I want this as the beginning, this is like the shocking moment, and this as the end, and just kind of like weaved a story amongst those points. Um, and it has actually kind of like followed the three-act structure, but not intentionally. So I find that happens quite a lot, that structuring is so embedded into like storytelling DNA. Um, so I just kind of wanted to just tell a linear narrative story over the course of someone's life.
And with that, you've managed to cover an entire lifetime in what, 3 minutes? Please, could you give any advice to filmmakers who are kind of like looking to jam pack an extensive story into a micro short? What top tips did you have?
I love this because I find it such a challenge to do that. There's some filmmakers that are great at making feature films, but would struggle with doing something of this length. I kind of feel like don't try to do too much. Instead of focusing on like a beginning, a middle, and an end, or I want to do all of this in someone's life, instead like narrow it down like massively so to the point where you're more talking about themes or moments in someone's life, like fragments. And then you can find a narrative that kind of fits that nicely rather than trying to like shoehorn things in. For me and the film, the theme is more about what happens if you don't follow what you want to go and do, what happens if you let other people's voices in. So in terms of best student, like it's the mother's well-meaning but misplaced encouragement that kind of forces her daughter to move away from the arts for the majority of her life. That's the overarching theme, rather than me looking at the script and thinking I want to do from childhood to adulthood, that kind of thing. It kind of took its shape from there. So I would definitely recommend like zeroing in. Whatever idea you have is great. Just go further in and really take a slice out of life for it.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's great advice, but I think just like even when you mentioned, avoiding the three act structure almost, I love filmmakers that just break those rules. It's so exciting because we've seen it all before sometimes when it comes to films, right? And I really do think that you have given us something unique with Best Student. And I remember seeing it for the first time in a film festival up in North Wales and thinking, that's a good film. And that's really stuck with me. So I'm so glad that we're talking about it now. All right, then. Well, working on a tight budget with a small crew, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was during the pandemic, was it not? What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in making Best Students, and how did you work to overcome them?
So this was June of 2022. So we were kind of like just about to come out of the pandemic restrictions and everything. But it was a challenge because on one hand, like I'm a working class filmmaker. I can't afford always to work for free, and I don't believe that people should have to, and especially don't believe that people should have to pay to work. And then on the other hand, also at that point in time, like I'm an asthmatic, and immunocompromised. So like as a disabled filmmaker as well, that was a scary time to keep making things. So for this, it kind of came down to I knew that I needed a skeleton crew because of the restrictions for COVID, the restrictions of our locations, but also um, just to be able to afford to pay people. The budget was very tight, but I kind of pulled the budget into equipment costs and making sure that everybody was paid a fair amount, obviously much less than people would normally be paid on a shoot, but everybody was paid the same. And I paid for everybody's like food, travel, and accommodation. By paying for accommodation, I mean in like I had an overlapping tenancy at this point. So one of the like the other apartment that's used mainly in the film, that was a film set and also a location base for like our camera team. They came down from Birmingham and they stayed in there. So it's just about finding ways to make it work whilst also being fair. It was something very important to me that there was a pay parity and that people did feel like they were being looked after, especially during the pandemic. I feel like in times of like crises in the film industry, especially with the strikes, when there hasn't been a lot of work, sometimes people like to try and take advantage of young filmmakers, because they just think, well, no one's being paid, but that's not very fair. And there are ways to get around that. So I was very pleased that we were able to pay people, but also it's stuff like, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the app like Olio. Great thing to try and get like food, to get free props. Like if you ever need a Christmas scene, people are getting rid of their Christmas decks. It's free. It's great for the environment and also great for the budget. Um, I pulled a lot of favors from family and friends. Like the older Carrie in the film is my mum. The younger Carrie is my sister-in-law. The mum in the film is my mother-in-law. And we also filmed outside of my apartment. We also filmed in my in-laws' house, and we filmed at Cardiff Uni, which they did a great deal for us. I think it was like £50 an hour to film. We're in there for a couple of hours. So it's difficult, things are expensive, but there are ways to get things done. Maybe it's not as high level as a professional film set, but friends and family are always willing to help, especially if you give them free food.
That's some really great advice, actually. I never thought to look at like Olio for like some props and things like that. Like at best I have a quick look on like Marketplace or something like that. Or I end up just buying things on eBay, you know? So do you have any other like top tips for maybe young filmmakers who are just starting out, just to keep those costs down? And like you say, you don't want people working for free, but they're doing something by themselves, perhaps. Is there anything they can do?
So if they were to join like the Bet2 union, you can get stuff like a public liability insurance for £40 for a year, which is great. Sometimes young filmmakers kind of forget about insurance and it can get very expensive. So at least to have some kind of public liability is great. And I was actually asked for public liability by Cardiff Uni, so it's great that I have that. You can don't underestimate the relationships that local film schools can provide. Like, I didn't go to film school when I was making this film, but I reached out to people anyway. My sound recordist on this film was currently at USW, so he was able to take out all of the sound equipment for free. So that's a great resource, even if you're not currently there, because film school, they want their students to be able to go out there and make stuff and make connections and make work. So more often than not, there'll be more than willing to work with people, especially in Wales. Like USW is a fantastic resource. Um, and Facebook is just great for like finding actors. Like I know in Wales, there's like actors in Wales groups, and these are all free resources as well. So there's a lot to be said about like online communities and the film communities in local areas. I think sometimes people really panic about how expensive things can be, and like it is expensive, but people sometimes want to step up and they're willing to help you if they want to step up. And I always say to young filmmakers, don't underestimate film students either. Like when I was recruiting, I had a lot of CVs. But again, my sound recordist was a student currently at USW. The reason why I hired him is because he just seemed like a lovely person, but already I saw on his credits that although he'd only done like other student films for like professional work, he'd done a lot of other films like as a PA, and TV shows as well, which kind of showed that he was already in the industry. He was putting in that work alongside his studies, and someone who also started working in film during my degree, like that said a lot. And then I've worked with him since, and he's just fantastic, and that's a lifelong connection now.
Oh, that is wonderful. There is nothing better than working on some kind of creative project where you meet someone for the first time, they help you out with it, and then it's almost this bond and this creative partnership almost that you can kind of like take on from that. It's one of the many reasons I absolutely love being creative, and I'm sure it's the same for you. And with that, actually, you mentioned how important it is to maybe have people working with you that have kind of an extensive CV. You know, you're not just a writer and a director, you too have an extensive CV in various departments in film and TV over the last few years. Could you tell us a little bit about your career leading up to becoming a director, and maybe other things that you're doing while being a director as well, and how those roles kind of maybe fed into your directing abilities?
So I knew from a very young age that I wanted to write and that I wanted to direct. But I was kind of like persuaded not to go to film school by my school. They were just kind of like really focused on go to a Russell group, blah blah blah. So I went and did English lit at Cardiff, but I did English literature at Cardiff specifically because they also had a massive amount of film modules on the English course, but also I knew that Casualty and Doctor Who filmed in Cardiff, and I did grow up watching Casualty and I loved it, and I wanted to work on it. In my final year, I'd done a lot of work, like as the LGBT plus officer at the SU. I'd done a lot of admin roles, which you wouldn't necessarily think would work with film, but I got my first role in film because of this, because I had that passion for storytelling, but also I had the administrative skills. And I applied for a shadowing job with a Welsh company through the Cardiff Uni student job boards. And I was brought on as like a locations trainee, but really I was working in the production office with the line producer. Um, and I think some people were a bit like, why are you doing that if you want to write? It's because like no knowledge is bad. Just getting on the film set is amazing. That job helped me understand like how a film set runs before the rest of the crew get there, after the crew have left, how locations are found, how they're found to fit a script. But I kept saying to everybody who would listen that I want to write and direct. So when that job finished and I was still studying it in my final year, I had another offer to be a script reader with the company because I'd said that so much that I wanted to work in like storytelling, but also I'd worked really hard just going out to get people coffees that people remembered. So don't underestimate that is my advice to all young filmmakers. Any role in film is great. You don't have to just stay in one role. I retrained as a locations trainee after I made it to like an APOC and production coordinator in film and TV. I retrained with Screen Alliance Wales as a script supervisor, which is a great role if you want to get on set and learn how camera angles work. And like you're really working closely with the director and the camera team, and also with the producer and like storytelling beats, especially on a show like Casualty. Um, so I kind of went from one day hoping to work on Casualty to script supervising on that show. And just a lot of people get that confused with writing because of the word script, but it's you can do a lot of research on stuff like screen skills to find out like the individual roles and rungs of a ladder in a department. And it's fun. There's so much to go out and try, and nothing is bad experience. They all feed in to each other. Like as a script supervisor, I now know how a script is told on screen, which is really, really useful.
So again, loads of different opportunities, loads of different skill sets, all feeding into what you're doing now. You mentioned Wales a lot there, and how we have a buzz-in TV and film industry. We have done for a few years now, and it's something that I'm super proud of, and probably one of the reasons that I think we're both doing what we're doing now because it's kind of at our doorstep. It's hard for me not to mention you have made quite a big move over the last few months. Could you talk a little bit about maybe how some of those opportunities in Wales, be it independent arts venues screening your films, small production companies giving you a chance, how those helped you reach where you are today, and how does that compare over the pond in Los Angeles, where you are now?
I think that my experience working with people in Wales is the reason why I'm now in LA. I'd always hoped one day maybe I'd be lucky enough to come out here and study and work. And my relationship with Chapter has been incredible over the last few years. I've done screenings with them. They helped fund Best Student with the BFI Film Academy microshort grants, which was just the most incredible experience. Tom at Chapter is extremely supportive of all young filmmakers, especially in Wales. The opportunities that I've had through him have just been incredible. I don't think I would have had any support if I just tried to fund this on my own. And working with like the film programming groups in North Wales led me to working with the International Youth Media Summit, which is like it's all around the world, England, Wales, the States, wherever. And I've now gone with them to Zanzibar in Tanzania, Wisconsin in the States, and they're currently heading towards Croatia next year. Oh, this year now, it's 2025. And it's that kind of like collaborative filmmaking environment in Wales, which is very good for indie filmmakers and young filmmakers, is international. So the home base is Wales, but it really reaches out to everybody. Wales has such good connections with the States, and it's because of like these experiences working with international filmmakers and creatives and change makers through like IYMS and through having Best Student through the BFI Film Academy and Chapter that I'm now studying here as a Fulbright Scholar with BAFTA in LA at UCLA.
And I am absolutely not jealous at all. That is
So when
such
you're
an
in
achievement. It's amazing, Rebs. Honestly, congratulations. And credit to you as well. We're recording this literally while LA is on fire. So thank you so much for making sure that you're safe and able to do this. We're so grateful. And I do hope you're feeling okay and feeling positive as we're going into the new year.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just about. Brilliant. Thank you so much. All right, then. Well, it's festival seasons, and I have asked you just about nothing about your festival run with Best Student. I mean, wow, this film has been to a fair few festivals. It's gone across the world, including the Cotswold International Film Festival. I recall you putting this out about 2 years ago, and it's wonderful to see how much screen time it's had. How did you get it into so many festivals? Like, do you use social media religiously or Film Freeway? How would a young filmmaker get their films into a film festival?
That's a great question because it's something that I spent a lot of time trying to find out. I hate to say it, but there are a lot of festivals online, especially at Film Freeway, that don't really benefit people in the way of that's great, you'll be accepted, that's fine. But there's a whole world of like regulations and things where, oh no, if your film is played even at an online festival, now you're ineligible for a whole host of like bigger festivals. And I think young filmmakers should definitely not count themselves out for these bigger festivals. Um, but also they're very expensive. So I kind of like I went on Film Freeway, I went on Reddit as well. A lot of the filmmakers post on subreddits there. And I was using a lot of social media, created a social media, a more professional one for myself and for the film and for like my production company. And did a lot of research and put everything into a big like Excel spreadsheet, which took a lot of time because I don't know how to use Excel very well. Um, and I just kind of like manually research festivals, how much they cost, what the deadline was, what the restrictions are, because some festivals you can only submit to if you made the film 12 months prior. So I kind of did a balance, and I recommend that to all young filmmakers of like named festivals, local festivals, regional ones, a balance between like free ones, mainly free ones were the ones that I submitted to, and paid ones. Like a fantastic for young filmmaking festival is the Cinemagic International Youth Film Festival, which is in Belfast. That's an incredible festival. That's free to young filmmakers under the age of, I think it's 25. I submitted to that one and won in the experimental category in 2022. That festival, like, that they're putting the film on in screenings in theatres. I think Mark Commode is involved in that festival. If you win, they give you like a trophy and a certificate, and they give you a gift card, or at least that was the case when I won. And that was completely free, but a wonderful opportunity to go and meet young filmmakers. So it's great to use your age as well as an opportunity. Like there's loads of festivals that are first film. There's loads of festivals, but between the ages of like 16 and 30, use them. It's the best way to meet other young people and other emerging filmmakers as well. So yeah, I basically use like Reddit and Film Freeway and just did a balance between paid for and free ones and just made a budget, and also found like genre ones and themed ones. Like if you have a LGBTQ plus film, submit to LGBTQ plus festivals. Like you'll be amazed at what subgenres there are for festivals as well.
Absolutely. All right. I mean, tell me then, for those filmmakers who are lucky enough to get their film into a film festival, of course, there are all sorts of different film festivals. You mentioned big name ones, small, regional, even local ones. What kind of opportunities, or rather more, what kind of networking opportunities can young filmmakers expect to get from these festivals, and how can they make the most out of them?
If you're lucky enough to be able to get your film into a festival, but you can't afford to go in person, there's still some great resources online. Also, like speaking for Wales, there are grants as well in some places in the UK, that will help you fund you and like some crew to go to various film festivals. Um, there's always normally like it's a great sign if there's a networking event like the BFI. I think it was the BFI, just the normal BFI festival a few years ago, did a young filmmakers networking event on one evening, and I went and I met loads of people that I'm still in contact with. The networking event, sometimes they can be very overstimulated and just because it's a lot of noise. So just always make sure that like you have a digital business card or a paper one. Digital one is better because people will lose them. So there's a lot of like networking events or like reception, like the Earls Court International Film Festival. I submitted best student for best first film there. And it was great. There was a reception with like canapes and drinks, and you can talk to everyone and anyone at these events. And like it's so important to speak to people that are further along in their career as well, because they can become guides or mentors, or just you might end up working in a role on their next film. They might end up helping you, which has happened to me before, that I've met people there that have then like worked as script editors of my films. And it's an opportunity to just get to know each other, like not just in networking, but also just to get to know other creatives. Like you're never going to improve as a writer or a director if you just stay at home. If you connect with people virtually or in person, that's just going to make you a better creative all round just by having these relationships and friendships.
Absolutely. It's great to just remind people as well, these film festivals, lots of film festivals are kind of adapting rapidly now to this kind of digital age that we're living in. And yeah, there are in-person festivals, of course, still going. They're so important to keep our venues going. But there's loads of online ones as well to make things a lot more accessible for those who can't travel. And great to have networking opportunities if they're online as well. I was lucky enough to go to one of the BFI networking events, one of the Film Academy networking events, actually, at the London Film Festival a few months ago. And like you say, they really do help you out, and you get to meet people and you get to even make friends as well, which is always like an extra bonus. It's such a wonderful experience. But you won the Audience Award at the Paris Short Film Festival, and I have to ask, what was it like having such a positive audience reaction to your work? And have you experienced anything like it before?
It's weird, like as a filmmaker, hopefully you think your own work is good, but you don't really know how other people react to that. And every time I've been at an in-person screening, and like spoiler alert, when something happens to the mug, everyone just goes like, ooh. And it's just like, it's the most amazing feeling to just have people react like that to your film, like whether they're laughing, crying, or going, ooh, it shows that they're emotionally engaged, they're paying attention, and just it's a very cool experience. So to win the audience award as well, like that meant more to me than just like winning a category, because it means that people watched it, they liked it, and they voted for it. And that's the most important thing, is to know that your audience liked the film.
There is just no better feeling, is there? Thank you so much for sharing that. All right then. Here's a question that I am going to ask you now, that we're going to kind of snip in to kind of like a little montage when the Future Film Festival kicks off. What advice would you give to a young filmmaker just starting out in the industry?
Hmm. My advice would be to trust yourself, trust your ideas. Don't try and capture what's already been done. Try and do something different. Because you never know when that's going to be the thing. And just be eager to meet people and to tell different stories.
Awesome advice. Thank you so much, Rebs. All right, well, I've only got one more question for you, and that one would be, what are you working on today, and when will we see another film by Rebs Fisher-Jackson, and will it be made in LA even?
So I'm currently working on several pilots at once. As part of like the MFA in screenwriting that I'm studying at UCLA. So I'm working on that, trying to get that off the ground. Like I'm a Better Connect writer director, and you have to submit a pilot or a feature that's in the process of being made in order to get membership alongside other things. So I'm trying to work towards getting my first pilot made, which is actually set in Mold and Wrexham in North Wales, with a little bit of American influences there. So I'm hoping that I can actually get that made one day, write on other things, and hopefully I will have a script for my first feature film by the summer as well.
That sounds awesome. I really want to know if you're going to end up coming back to Wales and film that in Mold near Wrexham, or whether you're actually just going to like kind of build something in Burbank.
Especially for Wales, like you've got to go back to what nothing captures like the beauty of Wales and like Cornwall and all those other places in the UK. Like it's got to be authentic, right? And also like the Welsh filmmaking community, you want to uplift them and just bring something back home.
Yeah, I mean, they've uplifted you all the way over there, so you can you can take that with you as well. Oh, thank you so much, Rebs, for giving us so much really helpful insight. I've actually really enjoyed this chat and to catch up with you as well after such a long time. It's been awesome, hasn't it? Thank you so much, Rebs Fisher-Jackson. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. That rounds up our discussion. Thank you for joining us. And thank you so much for watching this scene discussing Rebs' is wonderful microshort Best Student, which is available to watch, the link in the description. And remember, the BFI Film Academy Future Film Festival is around the corner, running from the 20th of February in person and right through until the 6th of March. Tickets are on sale for events and screenings happening in venues across the UK and online now. But to keep you busy until then, we have one more scene as part of our film festival season of scenes. Next, with BFI Film Academy Young Programmer Joanna McClurg, who will be talking with David Ledger about Rejoice, and that'll be out on Thursday the 13th. So I hope you guys managed to catch that as well. Thank you so much.